I'm Gilbert Cruz, editor of the New York Times Book Review, and this is the Book Review Podcast. This week, I'm joined by Joumana Khatib, an editor here at the Book Review, and Anna Dubenko, our newsroom head of audience. The three of us last gathered to talk about summer books, and now that we're right on the edge of true autumn, and because we all had such a great time, I wanted to have them back on to look ahead at the next several months in reading. Welcome back, Anna.
Hi, Gilbert.
Joumana, you're an old pro. Hi.
Nice to be back, Gilbert. Thanks.
Anna, last time you were on the podcast, we talked about the fact that someone had hidden a book on one of your shelves. Did you figure out what that book was?
So I was shocked. I did some digging. I interviewed some sources, and I figured out what it was because a friend told me what it was.
Okay.
It was Britney Spears, The Woman in Me, on a very high shelf. So my neighbor, who is the culprit, had someone very tall help her place the book. I never, ever would have found it, and now it's too high for me to take down.
Do you wish you had not known about this?
Kind of.
Okay. So I ruined it.
Yeah, a little bit.
Great.
Sunlight is the best disinfectant.
I'm sorry I ruined it. So as we do on these episodes, we're just going to go around the horn and each of us talk about a few books that we are looking forward to or are curious about that are coming out between now and the end of the year. The first one I think we need to start with, because it is one of the biggest fiction titles of the fall, is the new Sally Rooney. People like Sally Rooney. A lot of people read Sally Rooney. A lot of people are interested in Sally Rooney. Sally Rooney's back. She has a book. It's called Intermezzo. Joumana, what is this about?
The Irish elephant in the room. Okay, so this is the story of two brothers who have recently lost their father. One is a lawyer named Peter, and the other is a man in his early to mid-20s named Simon. He's casting about, trying to find his way in the world, and he is a chess pro. But if you've ever experienced grief, you know it is a very surreal experience, and so the brothers are dealing with it in a very different way. And so the story is really following them as they come into their own as men without their father and figure out who they are in romantic relationships. So it's very familiar Sally Rooney territory. She is a great chronicler of romantic life for millennials and young adults. And I think no matter what, Sally Rooney inspires a lot of strong feelings. So I think this book will do the same.
Do you have to like chess in order to read this book?
No, but no. And I also appreciated that this was a book that endeared me even more to chess. I am firmly a backgammon player. I have been leery of chess, but now I think I want to learn.
That's wonderful. I don't know how to play backgammon.
Oh, I can teach you.
Is it easy?
Yeah, it is easy.
Anna, how familiar are you with Sally Rooney?
I'm familiar, although I haven't read her last book. Should I?
Beautiful World. Is that the one you... Have you read Conversations and Normal People?
Yes, and I cannot remember which one is which.
Yes. You may not have room for more Rooney, if that's the case.
I think I'm full up on the Rooney.
Yeah. Rooney tank might be full.
Anna?
Yes.
You read.
Occasionally, yeah.
You also look forward to books.
Very much.
And there are many coming out this fall that you are looking forward to. One of them in particular is a book by Richard Powers.
Yes.
Tell
oh my
me.
God, I'm so excited.
Tell me.
So Richard Powers, if you've read anything by him, you likely have read his Pulitzer-winning book, Overstory. This book made me want to chain myself to a tree and potentially become an eco-terrorist. For the record, I have not committed any acts of eco-terrorism, but I thought about it as I was reading this book. So when I heard that he has a new book coming out this fall called Playground that is about the sea and water, I was really excited. It sounds very much, it has some similar themes to Overstories. It has multiple perspectives and narratives that are interwoven. One character is a aging tech giant who has sort of dementia. He thinks back on his past. There's an atoll, which is a word that's really fun to say because I only have seen it written Like
Bikini Atoll?
Yeah. Like a little island with the...
Yeah.
Yeah. How else would you pronounce it?
Atoll?
I've only seen it written. I don't know.
This is like how I learned how to say the word inchoate. It's by saying inchoate enough, and people will tell you it's actually pronounced inchoate.
Someone told me that if there are certain words that you only know because you've seen them written, it's a sign of great intelligence because you've read more than you've heard.
Do you think that's something that people just say because they want to make themselves feel better about mispronouncing words all the time?
I'm choosing to believe it.
Okay.
Okay, so there's an atoll, there's an island in French Polynesia, and they have an offer by these tech investors to build libertarian little floating cities off in the water. And then there's a famous oceanographer who's reminiscing on her life. And it just sounds really great. And I'm excited.
I just looked up what the definition of atoll is, and it's a coral island consisting of a reef surrounding a lagoon.
Oh, yes.
So that's what that is.
I think
Sounds relaxing.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
So why did you like the overstory, and what do you think he does particularly well that makes you look forward to this one?
He gets you to, first of all, nature is a character that inhabits and sits alongside the ways that authors can get readers to care about their human characters. You care about the sort of the natural characters, the trees. I've never cared about a tree or trees as much as I did when I read Overstory. The writing is beautiful. The ideas are lovely. It was just a real feat to get me to think about the natural world in this way.
I read the Overstory for the first time earlier this year when I had COVID for the second time. And I felt the same way. You're a city person. I'm a city person. I said, why have I never cared about trees before? And what can I do? We're cutting down all the trees. What's wrong with us? What's wrong with people?
Yeah.
It was a real experience.
But then you moved on.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't thought about a tree in months. So I would like to mention a book that is coming out in mid-October. It is Al Pacino's memoir. This is called Sonny Boy, a memoir. Everyone knows Al Pacino. Actor, he's been around forever. He was in The Godfather. He was in the movie Heat, a movie that Anna and I both love.
Oh, yes.
And have
one
seen
of my
together.
All-time favorite movies.
And he has a memoir coming out. And I feel like every fall you have celebrity memoirs. We're going to talk about a couple of other celebrity memoirs, but there's something about Al Pacino who, to me, has always struck me as someone who is unknowable in a way. You feel like you've seen this person for decades, yet you don't really know anything about him. I'm just very curious to see his accountings of all the famous movies that he's worked in. There was a great excerpt in the New Yorker a few weeks ago that was focused on his very young years in the South Bronx. And this is what it used to be like when you were a kid in the city. You had friends whose names were Bibby and Smokey and Salty and Kenny Lipper, quote, who would go on to become the deputy mayor of New York City under Ed Koch. I'm here for the New York stuff. I'm here for the movie stuff. I'm really looking forward to this one. Do either of you have a relationship to Al Pacino?
Just Bibby.
Bibby and Libby. I'm very pro Al Pacino. I've never even thought about trying to get to know his emotional topography. I've never been to Mount Rushmore either, but I feel like this might be what it's like.
As I mentioned, always in the fall, ton of celebrity memoirs. Last fall, the Britney Spears memoir came out. I hear it was quite good. Anna, maybe you could tell us about it later. But another one that's coming out this year is a memoir by Cher, and it's coming out in mid-November. And what is the name of this memoir?
Cher.
I think specifically,
what else could it be?
It's Cher, the memoir, part one.
Part one, yes. And this is what's getting my heart pumping this year. I think this is my Sonny Boy, Gilbert. So I will be unreachable on November 19th, which is when this book hits newsstands everywhere, bookstores everywhere. I love Cher. Cher is a major part of one of my favorite movies, which is Mermaids. Along the same time that my mother was introducing me to Cher's prowess on the screen, my father was educating me about Cher's extensive music catalog. We did listen to Believe on the way to school when he was driving. It was great. I cannot wait. The woman has lived so many lives. I'm excited to learn about the Armenian side of her. I'm excited to learn about her childhood. I think there's going to be a lot of heartbreak, but I am strapped in for all of this. I cannot wait. This is real Joumana bait.
Is it in relation to the Barbra Streisand book? Longer, shorter?
I think it's shorter because she actually had the good sense to put it into separate books, separate volumes. But yeah, I think this might be my Barbra Streisand in a way that everybody was looking forward to it. This is going to be a big thing. I love Cher.
I'm so excited for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thoughts and prayers. On the subject of multi-volume books, Anna, anything you're looking forward to?
Oh boy. I am excited for a book called The Sequel. By Jean Hanff Korelitz. It's coming out, I think, on the 1st of October. And I don't know how to say very much about this book or the book that it is a sequel to called The Plot.
Tell us what is the plot
Getting an idea.
loosely about?
The plot is a thriller. You can't put it down. It's a thriller about, oh gosh, let me think about how much I could give away without ruining this great plot.
A purloined plot.
A purloined plot. Thank you, Joumana. A writer, fading writer who is fated to teach MFA programs forever, steals the plot of a book. It becomes a bestseller, and then the book really gets started. And this is the sequel to that. And I'm so excited. I really want something quick and easy to jump into this fall.
Do you find that because fall books, both fiction and nonfiction, can feel so heavy that something like this is ideal in the mix?
I don't know if you recall this. I don't believe in books for certain seasons.
No, where did you say that?
Much like summer reading, where you had me on last, the episode on summer reading, I also don't believe in fall reading. I don't believe in spooky season or like academic books for fall. Just read what you want.
Okay. Fall is a season. It's not like it's a made-up thing, right?
We'll see.
The calendar is divided into 4
get back
parts.
to us in a quarter. Yeah.
Okay.
Gilbert, talk to us about seasonal reading.
So this is another celebrity memoir. I don't know why I'm focused on these, but this feels seasonal to me because when I think of Ina Garten, I think of the fall. Some people think of the summer. I think of coziness. I think of sweaters. I think of driving around in a convertible Mini Cooper with the top down, with a little cardigan, and Ina telling me we're going to get home and I'm going to mix you some cocktails. I love Ina Garten. I don't cook. I never cook. I'm a bad cook. But something about the Barefoot Contessa, Ina Garten, just makes me want to get in the kitchen. I know I can't be the only one that's excited for this. It comes out October 1st. It's called Be Ready When the Luck Happens, and it's a memoir by someone who has become known for setting a mood, setting a scene, making people feel very comfortable. I assume that this is going to have that same inviting tone one of the seasons.
It's definitely not fall, though. It's Barefoot Contessa. You're not barefoot in the fall.
I do like Ina, and I appreciate how she brings home cooking to the masses. And I would love to see you in a convertible going off to get store-bought vanilla.
With a cardigan.
With a cardigan.
Okay, the cardigan is key. Joumana, you have a book on your list that I think falls into the cozy category. If we're talking about cardigans, we're talking about autumn. It is a mystery by someone who very quickly in my mind has become like one of the more popular and beloved mystery writers out there.
Oh, I am delighted to talk about none other than Richard Osman, a very large British man who had a career as a TV presenter and then pivoted to writing novels, which is apparently his lifelong dream. So his first that came out in 2020 was called The Thursday Murder Club, and it followed a group of pensioners. I know that's the British term. To me, it always makes it sound like they're in like a chain gang, but retirees who are solving murders. So he has now released a new mystery that is not part of the Thursday Murder Club universe. This is a separate one, and it's called We Solve Murders. So very straightforward and to the point. It's out now, and it is about a family who look into murders. They get mixed up into a plot together. It's very funny. He's dry. He's witty. I love watching him on British panel shows. If you go see Would I Lie to You, he has a hilarious bit about a beaver. He's good on Taskmaster. I'm excited. I'm happy that I'm very moved by like a mid-career swerve, and I think he's pulling it off.
We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is the Book Review Podcast, and I'm Gilbert Cruz. I'm here with Joumana Khatib and Anna Dubenko, who both were on last when we were all talking about summer reading. So, Anna, you have a book that's out now that's already getting a ton of praise. It's sort of the opposite of cozy, and that is Creation Lake by Rachel Kushner.
Yes. I would describe the weather in this book to be like a summer chill.
Okay.
You're just out of the water, a breeze blows over you need a towel. It's really good. It's a spy thriller written as if the main character has dropped out of a PhD program in rhetoric, which incidentally, this character has. This character named Sadie Smith.
Okay.
And it's, we were talking about eco-terrorism before. Here we are again. She's a woman, a spy who infiltrates a sort of an eco-terrorist commune in sort of rural France and potentially tries to incite them to even greater violence. And it's spooky. There's lots of musings about Neanderthals. I learned more about Neanderthals than I ever thought I would. It's really moody. I suppose it's a fall book in that she's icy. And I remember reading The Flamethrowers, which came out like a decade ago, and really liking it. So it was pretty excited for this one, but I think I was mixed on this.
It's a very different vibe. I think that you can tell that she's having fun in this book, right? Because it's so of a type. She's really leaning into a lot of the spy tropes in the espionage novel while still having a lot of the Rachel Kushner hallmarks. And I say this as somebody who really likes Rachel Kushner. I like Telex from Cuba. She apparently doesn't, which is one thing I've learned from the media blitz around this book. I don't know. It's pretty catnipy. It's like a troglodyte thriller in like southern France. It's interesting.
And there are really funny moments in it. And also, I recommend setting it to, sometimes I read books to a soundtrack that sort of is evoked by the novel. I put on Charlotte Gainsbourg while I was reading.
Wow. One-stop shop.
Yeah.
Wow. Thanks, Anna.
It certainly is already getting, as I said, a ton of positive acclaim. A lot of critics are loving it. It was longlisted for the Booker Prize. It has been longlisted for the National Book Award in Fiction. I read half of it earlier this year, and I'm probably going to finish it. I will say this, as someone who has read spy books, many spy books, if you're going in, listener, with the expectation that it will just be a spy or some recognizable version of the spy book, that is not what this is. It really is an attempt to take this very recognizable genre and then mess with it in various ways. You should just know that going in.
If anybody wants to stay in France, but maybe wants to stay out of caves and would prefer to go into courtrooms, I can recommend a piece of nonfiction.
Beautiful transition here.
Yes, the Simone Biles of conversational transitions. This is from one of my favorite authors, Emmanuel Carrère. It's called V13, The Chronicle of a Trial. This is coming out on November 19th. And Carrère, I genuinely believe that he is one of the preeminent nonfiction writers we have working today in any language. And so this is his account of the trial of the people who carried out the Bataclan attacks in Paris in 2015. There was a horrible terrorist attack, deadly, frightening, looms large in the psyche of France. And one of his real skills is that he's able to really tap into the community around an event like this. So this is just as much about the people in the courtroom, the people affected by the trial, as it is sort of a procedural recounting of what happens. It actually reminds me of some of the best Janet Malcolm trial writing or Helen Garner or any of that kind of work. And he's very skilled at capturing the nuance of it, the ambiguity, and also the real moral clarity that comes with something like this, too. It's fantastic. I love him. I would read him on just about anything. And so it makes sense. I think this is a great match of writer and subject.
Anna, you also have a book by someone else that I think you love and that you've read before.
So I've got a sequel and a prequel, which is just
this is very Hollywood
so
of you. Yeah.
satisfying. So I have the prequel to Jeff VanderMeer's Southern Reach trilogy is finally here. Some of you may remember about a decade ago, he wrote the Southern Reach trilogy, which starts with Annihilation, then it's Authority and Acceptance. Annihilation was actually made into a movie. I think it was on HBO. And now, 10 years later, he's written the prequel to this trilogy, which I'm really excited about. It's really hard to describe what the original trilogy is about. It's a dystopian sci-fi thriller. It's deeply weird. It's about a set of biologists who enter this liminal zone, I think in Florida, where things are not as they seem. Nature is upended and acts in ways that doesn't make sense. It's unclear what is real and what is a manifestation of the character's sort of psychosis in this zone, Area X. And so this newest book, Absolution, is a prequel to what happened to lead to the conditions of mysterious Area X. The books, the original trilogy made me feel like when I was reading it, that the walls were alive in a deeply unsettling, creepy way. I mean, I was genuinely frightened, but in a way that is different from when I read other kind of horror.
So the funny thing, Anna, is I've never read these books. I listened to all three of them, and it was a very long time ago, and I would listen to them before I went to bed. And so I would often fall asleep, and I would have to go back and rewind. This is how I listened to all three of these books. And so I'm not sure what actually happens in the books, what is real, what is like dream-inflected. I don't want to go back and read it because I feel like I have my own memory of the Southern Reach trilogy. But you're absolutely right. There's some of the weirdest books I had read in a long time. And I'm sure people that read sci-fi and fantasy would be like, you've not seen anything yet. This is not weird. But for me, it was deeply bizarre. The first book has, I think, walls that are alive as they're going down into this tunnel in the ground. And it's very icky and
half wall, half esophagus, potentially. It's listening to the books right before bed is I would not recommend to anyone.
Anna, I have a book that I'm interested in by a writer who has put out many books, much like Jeff VanderMeer. It is a new book by Richard Price. Richard Price has Lazarus Man coming out November 12th. And I think people know who Richard Price is. He wrote Clockers. He wrote Lush Life. He also is a screenwriter and has worked on a bunch of HBO crime shows. If you saw The Night Of with Riz Ahmed, he was like the main force behind that. He did an amazing adaptation of a Stephen King crime story called The Outsider. He worked on The Wire. But he hasn't written a novel under his name since 2008. That was Lush Life. So it's been a while. This one takes place in Harlem. There is an apartment building that collapses, and then there's a lot of drama. There's a lot of fallout. And I think given the fact that Richard Price, in my mind, is someone who writes about cities, New York City, adjacent cities, as well as anyone out there when it comes to charting the intersecting lines of race and class and crime and police. I'm so excited for this one. He's never let me down.
I love your untrammeled enthusiasm for New York fiction. I genuinely mean that.
Is it a cliche? Am I cliche?
No, not at all. No. You're dancing with it, but no, I'm kidding. It's really nice to hear you talk about New York in literature. Because I can tell it reminds you that fiction means something to people.
It does. Does this next book mean something to you? Rejection?
Yes. How much time do you have?
Tell us about Rejection.
Which is
out now.
Which is out now. So this is a work of linked stories. It's not quite a novel. It's not a collection of discrete stories by Tony Tulathimutte. It's called The Feminist. When it was published on N+1, it briefly broke the internet, which is pretty remarkable for a small literary journal. Its best ever read story or something in history. This is he's an edgelord, right? He's an he's an edgelord. He writes about people that you don't want to be. I really had to pace myself reading this because after every scene, I felt like I had just drunk paint. You know, it was like settling in my stomach. It's rough. It's also genius. I think our critic, Dwight Garner, put it best when he said that this book often made him feel stubbed out like a cigarette. I know there is a constituency of people who listen to this podcast that chase that feeling in literature, and that is this book. But really, he's funny, he's dark, he's able to marshal all sorts of unpleasantries in modern life into fiction that makes you think. I would recommend it. Not for your mother.
I'm not sure I want to feel stubbed out. I get that enough
Ever?
in my real life.
No?
I don't need that in my literature.
That's being a parent.
See, maybe you should listen to Charlotte Gainsbourg while you read this.
I just need a soundtrack.
That'll
make it just a
maybe
full...
Wagner. I don't know.
Okay, so that was 2 or 3 books from each of us that I think we're interested in or excited for. There are so many books coming out this fall, every fall, which is definitely a real season. Joumana, I was wondering if you could talk about some of the ones that already in mid-September have come out and are likely to keep chugging along.
Yeah, so one that immediately comes to mind, it's like a blazing pony out of the gates. This is Colored Television by Danzy Senna. It's a Good Morning America book club pick. I think this is going to be in people's minds for a while. Danzy Senna has been writing for years. She writes often about, or almost exclusively about, mixed race characters, and she is wickedly funny. So this is a satire of a biracial novelist in LA whose publishing career is dead in the water, so she turns to Hollywood and things just get wacky. It's a lot of fun. It's a real romp. And then in the nonfiction category, I'm still thinking about Health and Safety by Emily Witt. She is a journalist. She writes for The New Yorker. And I should preface this by saying that one of my least favorite experiences is listening to people describe revelations they've had when they've been using drugs. And in spite of that, I love this book because this is a book about how she got into the Brooklyn party scene, how she was using psychedelics, how both of those activities enriched her understanding of herself. She's a beautiful writer. I think it's really good.
Okay, so we just talked about like 10 books, and that doesn't even crack the surface when it comes to the rest of the year. So I'm going to very quickly go through a couple of other titles here that listeners might be interested in. October 22nd, a big nonfiction book, Patriot, a memoir by Alexei Navalny. Navalny is the Russian dissident who died this year in a Russian prison, and to everyone's surprise, he has a posthumous memoir that is coming out. He had been working in secret on this book. I can't wait to see what the actual story behind the book is, but I suspect that this is going to be a big one. Ta-Nehisi Coates has a new book coming out called The Message. Robin Wall Kimmerer, which maybe is a name that people did not know before 2020, when braiding sweetgrass, indigenous wisdom, scientific knowledge, and the teaching of plants became a pandemic phenomenon. It was a book that had been initially published in 2013 by a small press, Milkweed, and then all of a sudden in 2020 it hit the bestseller list and stayed there for months. She has a follow-up coming out called The Serviceberry. Malcolm Gladwell has a book coming out. And it is also a sequel. It's a book called Revenge of the Tipping Point. The Tipping Point came out 25 years ago.
Wow.
Do we all remember reading The Tipping Point?
Yes.
Sure do.
Yeah. Do we all remember, was that the book that said you have to do something for 10,000 hours in order to be good at it? Or was that another book?
I thought that was Outliers.
Yeah.
Okay. What have you done for 10,000 hours that you're good at?
What have I done for 10,000 hours that I'm good at? Oh, Minesweeper.
Minesweeper.
Really good at Minesweeper.
Wow. Okay.
Do you know what Minesweeper
I
is?
do.
Okay.
I do.
Okay.
I'm an old soul.
Great. Just.
What have you done for 10,000
Yeah.
hours? Watched Heat?
And then finally, 2 final books I think are worth mentioning. Another celebrity memoir, because we're nothing if not predictable here. This is From Here to the Great Unknown. This comes out in early October. And it's another posthumous book. Lisa Marie Presley, the daughter of Elvis Presley, died in January 2023. And this is a memoir that her daughter, Riley Keough, the actress most recently seen in Daisy Jones and the Six, picked up and finished on her mother's behalf. Then finally, there's a new Murakami. Who likes Murakami? Joumana's raising her hand. This one comes out November 19th, The City and Its Uncertain Walls. It's his first novel since 2017's Killing Commendatore. Commendatore?
Commendatore.
Commendatore. He was on my mind earlier this year because none of his books appeared on our list of the 100 best books of the 21st century so far, and readers were not happy.
I'm so glad that we have the kind of relationship where readers share their thoughts with us.
We had readers do their own version of the 100 best books of the 21st century, and two of his books, Kafka on the Shore and 1Q84, came out, although I must say pretty low. They were both in the high 70s.
High 70s, that's my ideal temperature.
Okay.
It's like an early fall.
Anna Dubenko, thank you for coming on the Book Review Podcast. Can't wait to have you back.
Can't wait to be back.
Joumana, you're like co-host, essentially, at this point. Thank you for always being here.
Oh, it's a delight. I'll just start sleeping under the desk.
Okay. We're not making her do that. That was my conversation with Joumana Khatib and Anna Dubenko, editors here at The Times, about the books that we're all looking forward to this fall. I'm Gilbert Cruz, editor of the New York Times Book Review. Thanks for listening.